Where's your daddy and your mommy, right? Do you want to go back to them or do you want to stay with Donald Trump?
Trump.
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me today. All right, I am in an especially good mood because you know Donald J. Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States of America. We still have to pray, prayer warriors, pray without ceasing, that it is a peaceful transfer of power and that it is a successful 4 years and that the evil powers that be just literally cannot do anything to disrupt this blessing that is coming to the United States of America. God has truly smiled on this nation and he listens to the prayers of his people. But before we get into this video, don't forget to like this video, comment, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Watch the video to the end. Now let's get into it. So Donald Trump has been described as this most horrible person, right? Racist. He only thinks about himself. He only cares about the ultra wealthy like he is. But you know, I have some footage I want to share with you today that simply doesn't say that. Check this out.
But Amy, there is one more thing. Tonight we have a very special surprise. I am thrilled to inform you that your husband is back from deployment. He is here with us tonight, and we couldn't keep him waiting any longer.
The media often presents Donald Trump as a heartless, self-centered man who profits at the expense of the common people. This is what many Americans also think when they talk about or think about the real estate mogul and former president. Do you have this same thought? Well, the truth is that the former president is not as bad as people make him to be.
Where's your daddy and your mommy, right? Do you want to go back to them or do you want to stay with Donald Trump?
Trump.
He also has a heart of gold and has helped several people at different times. Join us as we reveal 10 random acts of kindness performed by Donald Trump that will make you cry.
Come up here, come here. Do you mind if I do a job interview right now? We need good people. How are you? If we can make a good deal in the salary, she's going to probably have a job, okay? All right, good. Have a good time. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Good. Thank you. So nice.
Sent $25,000 to a U.S. Marine. There was a time when a young Marine named Andrew Tamesi went from California to Mexico. He had no idea that that one action would change the rest of his life. Within his truck, he had legally owned guns, which is okay in the United States, but not allowed in Mexico. He was arrested and put in jail when the Mexican government found the guns. He soon became trapped in a nightmare from which he couldn't escape. Andrew was locked up in a strange country for 7 long months, beaten and left alone, with little chance of soon going back to his family. Being through that was so scary that it broke him physically and mentally. Andrew came back to the U.S. with deep scars and no clear plan for how to fix them when he was finally freed. But that's when Donald Trump did something that not many people thought he would do. Without warning, Andrew got a check for $25,000 in the mail from Trump, along with a note that just said, "To get you started." No big news was given, and there was no press meeting. It was a small act of kindness done at a great time for Andrew. It wasn't the money that meant anything to this Marine. It was the fact that someone cared.
See, they're not going to talk about this when it comes to Donald Trump. You know, they're going to label him the worst human being ever. I just received a text. I'm in a group text with family members. Some of them are lefty lefties. Some of them are not. Some of them are leaning conservative. But this person sent out a text that someone posted on X saying that Donald Trump was the worst president ever, all these horrible things. He caused an insurrection. He, he just wouldn't, just all these counts against him, 34 counts. He's a convicted this and that, and all of the things that involved E. Jean Carroll, who said that he touched her. I'm like, really? Okay, whatever. Anyone selling a book, you got to know that that means they're trying to get their book sold. Okay, notice that decades later and they're selling a book means it's not true. It's not valid, in my opinion, allegedly. Yeah, so they're not going to talk about all of these things, but the truth always comes to the light.
This next act of kindness by Donald Trump is so random but heartwarming. Sent $10,000 to a heroic driver. A city bus driver in Buffalo, New York, called Darnell Barton was going on his normal route on a cool October day when he saw something strange on the bridge ahead. A young woman stood outside the fence, incredibly close to the edge, and looked down at the drop below. Darnell was different from other drivers who might have kept going, hoping that someone else would stop and help. He stopped his bus, got off, and walked over to her. He was cool, even though the situation was serious. He spoke to her softly and reminded her that she wasn't by herself. She slowly climbed back up over the railing and off of that ledge. Darnell stayed with her until help came. When Trump heard about this, he saw Darnell's quiet bravery for what it was. A man who wouldn't look the other way saved a life. After seeing how brave the driver was, Trump sent him a check for $10,000 as a special thank you for his kindness and bravery. There was no hope of getting anything in return. Before he left, Trump told Darnell that what he did was important and that the world was a better place because he stepped in and changed things that day. Most people wouldn't notice the small act, but for Darnell, it was a moment that proved kindness does work both ways. Flew a sick boy on his private jet to get treatment. A boy named Andrew, who was 3 years old at the time, was fighting for his life because he had a rare, unidentified illness that made it hard for him to breathe. Andrew needed care that could only be given by specialists from all over the country. The family had to act quickly, but they ran into a heartbreaking problem. No commercial plane would fly the child because he needed so much life support equipment to stay alive during the trip. So that he could get help, Andrew's dad called Donald Trump and asked if his private jet might be the answer. Trump didn't think twice. He agreed right away to let them use his plane. Andrew took off on Trump's private jet with his parents and a group of nurses. They made it safely to New York, where doctors were waiting for them. This act of kindness wasn't done to get attention or fame. It was done to help a little boy stay alive. The grandparents of Andrew were so thankful when they met them at the airport. They knew that their grandson's path to hope was only possible because someone cared enough to say yes.
That is amazing because some of these things I have not heard of. Some of them I have, some of them I haven't. And I am just overwhelmed with joy right now. First of all, because Donald Trump just became the 47th president of the United States. Very happy about that. But also learning that I could share acts of kindness that was actually done. You know what I mean? So this is amazing. So when you have family members, friends, or whoever out there saying he's this, he's that, just have these handy little clips on your cell phone and show them.
Sheltered Jennifer Hudson rent-free after the loss of her family. Jennifer Hudson's life changed for good in October 2008. In a terrible act of, she lost her mother, her brother, and her young nephew. Jennifer felt so sad that she went back to Chicago to find a safe place to cry in peace, away from the media and the public eye. When Donald Trump heard about the incident, he offered her and her surviving family a free stay at his Trump International Hotel and Tower in Chicago. He wasn't trying to get attention. He just wanted to give her a safe, comfortable place to start healing. She was taken to a place where she could grieve without having to think about reporters, bills, or anything else. During one of the worst times in Jennifer's life, Trump made sure she and her family had everything they needed to stay safe and get through it. He gave her a private place to stay, a safe place where she could be Jennifer. Not the star or the famous, but a daughter and sister dealing with unimaginable loss. Because of this kind of act, she didn't have to carry the world's weight on her shoulders. This gave her time and room to get strong for the hard journey ahead. Donald Trump made history with this next act of kindness.
So this is the thing. These famous people out here that aren't coming to this man's defense because people are calling him all these terrible names. He did a lot for Jesse Jackson as well. Jesse Jackson could have said something some years ago when Donald Trump ran the first time. I realize Jesse Jackson has some things going on, so I pray that he is okay. But Jennifer Hudson, they should have said something. You know, they're told to be quiet. They get the call. You know, they have to sweep everything. They got to make this man look like a monster. And it is simply not true.
Assigned Barbara Rez the contract to construct Trump Tower. In the early 1980s, Donald Trump did something that no one in the male-dominated world of building skyscrapers thought he would. He hired Barbara Rez and put her in charge of building Trump Tower. She was the first woman to be in charge of a project like this. Trump didn't look at her gender. He saw her skills and trusted her to run one of his boldest projects in a field that didn't often hire women, especially to lead such a big project. Think about how hard it must have been for Barbara to go into building sites where most of the workers had never been told what to do by a woman before. But Trump's faith in her helped her move forward. He stuck to his choice, which showed that he was ready to break down walls to get the best person for the job. Trump made sure she had everything she needed to do well, and the two of them built a symbol that would change the view of New York forever. This choice was important because women still had a hard time getting equal rights. She did more than just build a building. Trump gave her the chance to help other women get jobs in construction. There was no need for a big show. It was about believing in someone's skills, no matter what other people think.
See, remember that comment by Mark Cuban? Mark Cuban said that Donald Trump is afraid of strong, intelligent women. Doesn't look like it, does it? This was in the early 80s, and a woman had never been over something like this before. Barbara Reyes, he had her lead this project. And I knew about her. I knew about Jennifer Hudson, but some of these stories I did not know about. But remember, when the media comes out and spews things, it's an absolute lie. Just do the opposite and believe the opposite of what the mainstream media says, because they don't know how to tell the truth.
Paid off the house deed of a couple. A small act of kindness can sometimes pay off in ways that no one could have imagined. A couple was driving along the road one night when they saw a limousine that had broken down. It didn't matter that they didn't know who owned it. When they pulled over, the husband offered to help right away and helped start the car again. They didn't know it, but they helped Donald Trump. Because they were so kind, Trump chose to thank them in a way that will never be forgotten. A letter showed up at the couple's house a few days after that night. The deed to their house was inside, and it was paid off in full. The weight of debt was gone in an instant, and they were filled with pure joy and relief as they owned their home outright. You can only imagine how shocked and thankful they must have been. Even though Trump didn't know them, he wanted to thank them for being kind and generous, not because of who they were, but because of a real reaction to an act of human kindness. Today, simple acts of kindness are often overlooked. This act showed us that sometimes our good works have bigger effects than we could have imagined. Gave a single dad $10,000. A story about Donald Trump that not many people know shows how kind he is. A single dad was having a hard time because he had to work, raise his kids by himself, and worry about his own dad's health every day. His dad had cancer and was having a hard time. The single dad did everything he could to help him. But no matter how hard he tried, life was overwhelming. This is especially true when medical bills keep coming in and there is only one source of income. Trump met this man one day and listened to his story. He didn't just nod his head, he could feel the dad's worry and pain. Trump looked past the dad's appearance and knew what a big load he was carrying. He wanted to help. Very few people would have reached out to that man, but he did. He told his team to send $10,000 to the man. It was more than just money. It was a way to escape the stress and worries that never seemed to stop. That check meant more to this dad than words can say. The act of kindness was more important than the amount of money. Trump's action took away a huge load, letting the man breathe a little easier and focus on what was most important, his family and his dad's health. This act of kindness stays with you, not just because it was kind, but also because it reminds you that sometimes someone can understand what you're going through and care enough to do something about it.
This is amazing to me. Just giving a single dad money to help him. Money isn't everything, but it does take away a huge worry and stress. Like, where am I going to get the money for this and all of that? It does take weight off. It alleviates a lot of stress. Make no mistake about it. And paying off a couple's mortgage, housing Jennifer Hudson after she brutally lost her family. Wow. And that child that was sick, flew that child with a medical team to where he needed to go to get the proper care. But the media tells you, and Kamala Harris, tells you that he's only worried about himself. And he has a list of grievances. And some of these things happened like long before Donald Trump even became president, like long before. Some happened while he was president, some right before, and way before. So yeah, we got to learn not to listen to the media. And I'll say it again till the cows come home. Satan is the prince of the air. He lies using the media. And if the media cannot get things right, like science, like who God is, and that there are only two genders and you can't change your bodies, then if they can't get that right, they can't get right who to vote for either, because they kept propping up you know who, and this person would have been a horrible president. Now let's check out this very last act of kindness that this video says is one for the history books.
And proof that Trump values justice. Pardoned late heavyweight champion Jack Johnson. Giving boxing great Jack Johnson a long overdue pardon was an amazing act of justice that went back more than 100 years. Donald Trump did it out of the goodness of his heart. Jack was more than just a boxer. He was the first African-American heavyweight winner and broke the racist rules of his time. What was his crime? Because of who he was and who he loved, he was harshly sentenced for loving a white woman, even though it shouldn't have made a difference. It was more than just a show for Trump to pardon Jack Johnson. It was a message to fix a wrong etched in the sands of time. Jack had to deal with harsh criticism and endless court cases because he lived his life in public. His success in the ring was an example, but his problems off the ring showed how unfair society can be. Trump restored some honor to Johnson's reputation with this pardon, a way to say, this shouldn't have happened. The people who had fought for Jack's name felt relieved and healed when Trump made the pardon. Johnson's family, supporters, and actor Sylvester Stallone were present as well. Recognizing a man who had been dead for a long time and whose spirit had been hurt but never broken was a strong moment. Trump's pardon was an emotional tribute to a man who never gave up. It was a way for Jack's family and friends to show that they would never forget his life, struggles, and legacy.
Wow. I'll leave the full video in the description. You can click on the link and watch it in its entirety. But Jack Johnson, now this is going to hit hard against people who call him a racist. Donald Trump is not a racist. Look at all the black people he helped. And then Jack Johnson knocked out white men and was married to a white woman. If he was racist, I mean, come on. We got to use some critical thinking skills here. The man's not racist. Judge Joe Brown said that. And Judge Joe Brown has been around a very long time and remembers details like he might be reading them from a book or a teleprompter, but he's not. He's just remembering these minutia of details about things that happened decades ago. I'm always impressed with Judge Joe Brown. I really am. And he said Donald Trump is no racist. Dated a black woman. I mean, come on. Helped black people left and right, helped a black woman live in his Trump Tower rent-free, doesn't have to pay one red cent, and she was delivered 3 meals a day and flowers once a week. Does that sound racist? I think not. And coming off of this exhilarating feel that I'm having right now, we still have to keep praying because we know the evil powers that be do not like what just happened a few hours ago. Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States of America. We have to continue praying even harder, actually, even harder. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You all be blessed. Love God, your families, the United States of America, and march on, warriors.